Let's talk about the invasion of the migrants, which continues apace. Over the weekend, Friday, 180 illegal channel crossings. And guess what? On Saturday, check this out, 656. So, and still they come. Let's talk to, he's the research director at the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Hello, Robert.
Evening, Kev.
Well, here we go again. Same old topic, really, but just an indication that, on Saturday, 656 came across in 11 boats. That is a bumper amount. That is a huge amount of people to come in one day. I can't quite work out the rhythm of all this, because suddenly yesterday there was no one. But the point is, Robert, the weather is getting good and the migrants are coming over. And this has brought into stark, sharp focus that this government is doing nothing about it, nothing to stop them whatsoever, is it?
No, it's not at all. And, I think we're now actually, I think it's safe to say, in uncharted waters when it comes to this crisis. We are now actually seeing a year that is on course to be a record year when it comes to individuals coming across the channel. We're now on about a rate that's 30% higher than we were this time last year. So far from actually grappling this crisis. And, you and I both very pined at the Tories' handling of this and, pointed out that their Rwanda plan wasn't going to work because of the ECHR. But the Labour Party have come in and scrapped absolutely everything that the Conservatives at least got the kind of sense would work, and had kind of identified something in human nature that if you have a deterrent and you make things very unpalatable for an individual looking to come, then they are less likely to come. So the Labour Party have scrapped that. And keep blabbering on about this plan that they keep assuring us will eventually bear fruits and we will start to see the numbers come down. But it's not coming yet. We're not seeing any of those so-called benefits. And the fact that they keep still having the audacity to claim that they're gripping this problem is shameless, quite frankly.
Yeah, you say that they insist their policy will, in the fullness of time, bear fruit. Their policy is to smash the gangs, as Keir Starmer never tires of repeating, smash the evil people smuggling gangs. Well, the problem with that policy is so far they haven't smashed any people smuggling gangs. They haven't caught any. As I always say, it's a flawed strategy. It's not going to work because there will always be people smuggling gangs as long as there are people to smuggle, as in the migrants. You've got to stop the migrants. But that notwithstanding, how can they say that their policy, their strategy will bear fruit when it hasn't borne any fruit whatsoever for 9 months?
Well, I guess we have to kind of assume what their desired outcome is. You have to kind of judge policies, I suppose, ultimately from their outcome. And I think we have to look at what the Labour Party is doing and the fact that they're in hock and often far too beholden to these international courts, these kind of senses of human rights. We can't forget the Attorney General, Keir Starmer, have very, very successful human rights background as well. So these are individuals that are coming at the issue from a particularly different perspective than one that the large majority of the British public would come at. We view it as a national security threat. We view it, and many people view it as an invasion. Many people see it as entirely unjust that we're spending £6 billion a year to deal with this crisis. But these individuals that are actually calling the shots, in many cases, view them as legitimate asylum seekers and view these as kind of individuals hard down on their luck and therefore worthy of every benevolence that the British state can throw upon them. And I think that's the real problem that we've got in the real juxtaposition between where the UK government is and the British public. And I think it's one that's going to cause a lot more tension because they're quite frankly at this point they're cloth-eared. They haven't got the ideological or the intellectual positioning to actually identify why people are so annoyed by this. They're talking a lot about returns of individuals and the fact that they've upped returns on the Tory numbers. Not very hard to do. The Tory numbers were woefully low, but those individuals that the Labour Party are actually returning are low-hanging fruit. In many cases, they're voluntary. In many cases, they're individuals that we've had to actually pay to leave as well. So I think we have to judge the Labour Party's position and their views on this by the outcomes that we're now seeing.
And they're gaslighting us, basically. I think we're pretty much, if we're not over it, we're almost over the 8,000 mark now. And I've heard reports that we're sort of 30% up on what we have been in the past. Meanwhile, Keir and Calamity Cooper, the Home Secretary, stare us in the face and say, we've got this policy, it's sure as hell going to work. Well, it hasn't worked, and the numbers are rising. They are not so much increasing as soaring. It's kind of weird to have a government telling us, oh, no, don't worry, be patient, we've got a brilliant policy, it will work, when we can all see it absolutely is not working. They're just gaslighting us, aren't they?
They absolutely are. And in a way, you have to admire the audacity of these individuals. Of course, they're not prepared at all to actually have a frank conversation with the British public, because, of course, the small boats, those entering, are only actually a part of the problem as well. What we also need to look at is the rates of asylum being granted, which seem to be, far too high. There's, huge problems with the way the Home Office is actually processing these cases. Many illegitimate cases are being waved through because of the Labour Party's desperation to another promise they made to close the hotels. Of course, we now know that more hotels are actually opening as well. There are cases in Cheshire where now former student accommodation, with hundreds of bedrooms, are now being sort of ready to see a new influx of individuals put up, and blighting that community as well. So they've made promise after promise, and I kind of think they suspected that because the British public was so sick with the Tories' mishandling of this situation, that they'd be given a free pass. Unfortunately, they massively underestimated the sheer public anger that there is around this issue. It is one of, if not the most salient political issue, and one that really actually should be defining the local elections as well. It's a bit worrying that we're not hearing quite as much of candidates vying for local council places talking about what they do to clamp down on asylum seekers in their area as well, because of course there is things that local councils can be doing to make it more difficult for asylum seekers to be settled in their area.
Indeed, it is an issue that really energises the people, and politicians never seem to get it through their head. Old Boris Johnson, I don't think he understood it at all. He just said it was a long way away and I live in Highgate, there's no problems there, etc., etc. So politicians still can't quite understand that this is a very important issue. It's an election loser, to say the least. Last question to you, Robert. We know all about the enticements. Instead of deterrence, this government offers enticements. 45 quid a week, free hotel, free food, free doctors, free lawyers to fight your case to stay here, and the list goes on. We give them lots of gifts, lots of presents. We take them out for days at the zoo. Tours around the local football team, give them free driving lessons, free driving tests. Kent County Council last year spent £20 million on free driving lessons for migrants. £20 million on free driving lessons. Unbelievable. So this just constantly goes on. But here's the crux of it. This is really why they continue to come. Because until 3 years ago, we were allowing 75% of all asylum seeker applications were approved. So you're 75%, so 3 in every 4, that is, isn't it? Just about 3 in every 4 asylum applications were approved, and everybody, even the government, said, "Oh, we've got to get that number down. Yeah, that's too high. That's too high." We're now allowing 45% to stay, so nearly half. The nearest equivalent to us, I think, is it's France, 30%, Germany, 12%. Other countries, numbers like 2% and 3% and 4%. We're still letting nearly half of the illegal migrants who turn up here stay. That's at the root of the problem. They know once they get here, they're pretty much home and dry, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that probably is actually one of the biggest inducements, in that Britain is, when you compare us to especially what's going on in the continent, very much a soft touch. And we have actually seen certain flows that would otherwise have settled in Italy or places on the Mediterranean and been their problem, because of the more stringent measures that they're introducing, start migrating their way up towards Northwest Europe. So I think our leniency on this issue is definitely one of the biggest pull factors, and we have to have an actual frank conversation about how given we know the makeup of the immigration tribunals and the softness of the Home Office when it comes to actually processing these applications, how can we get to a position where we actually stop those flows and stop, compounding a problem that everyone across the board is admitting does exist, whether Labour or Conservative? Everyone seems to be admitting that the asylum system is creaking at the seams and is overburdened. So what can we actually do to address that? And I'd argue that one of the biggest things we can do is a temporary, at the very least, freeze on asylum claims.
Yeah, good idea. We certainly should do something, but whether or not this government will ever do anything is a moot point. Question we have to ask is just how committed are they to solving this crisis, and do they really want to close our borders properly? I don't think they do. Robert, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Robert Bates there, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Does this government really want to solve the migrant crisis? Because it sure as hell isn't.